Hi Year 6 and welcome to Tuesday's reading lesson. So yesterday we focused on the warden in Holes and we carried on thinking about the concept of power, and we were talking about women in authority. We talked about how lots of people were quite surprised when the warden turned out to be a woman, because very often it is men who are authority figures. It is men who are in charge in places like this, and it was a camp full of men, and lots of people had assumed she'd be a man. So to start us off thinking about this concept of women and power compared to men, I want you to pause the video and tell me, what can you remember about the journey of women's rights from last term's history unit? Okay, so hopefully you remembered things like the suffragettes, the fight for the vote. You might have remembered some of the dates when women finally got the vote. You might have remembered at the beginning of the 20th century, women and men were very unequal. Even before that, in the 19th century, women were considered men's property. They couldn't do anything without the permission of their husband. They couldn't own their own property. They couldn't have jobs. And as time's gone on, things have become more and more equal, and women could have a say. And now into the 21st century, women are becoming a lot more equal to men in things like jobs as well. And I know we talked about things like football and things like that, didn't we? As to whether there actually is full equality, and we decided that there probably wasn't just yet. So today we are going to talk about this lady, okay? We're going to read some non-fiction to learn more about her, and she is a woman in authority, and she's been in the news lately. So do you know who she is and why she is important? Okay. So this is Kamala Harris, and she is the new Vice President of America alongside Joe Biden as the new president. So this is particularly significant because she is the first woman to ever hold that position. And we're going to read a little bit more about her today. So you might have got the text beside you. You might have been able to print it out, or if you haven't, I've put it up on this screen so that you're able to see it. If you've got a printout of it, you might want to annotate along as I'm reading. And if you haven't, you might want to read along on the screen and note down anything that you think is important. Today is our read and annotate day, and tomorrow will be your question answering day. So read along with me and annotate anything that you think is important. So who is Kamala Harris? Kamala Harris was born on October 20th, 1964 in Oakland, California. So California is a state of America. She is the eldest of two children. She's the oldest, and she's got one other sibling. Born to Shyamala Gopalan, a cancer researcher from India, and Donald Harris, an economist from Jamaica. Okay, so we've got her parents' names there. Her mother is from India. Her father was from Jamaica. At a young age, Kamala was submerged into civil rights demonstrations and activities as her parents were part of the movement. So we know from our learning last term about civil rights demonstrations in America, which is where she was. We talked about people like Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks, and that's the kind of time that she was born into, and it says that her parents were involved in that. So demonstrations being the kind of protests and the kind of call for equality that were going on at the time. That word submerged there, usually you're submerged underwater. Like if you go completely underwater, you are submerged. So being submerged in civil rights demonstrations just means they were completely in that. That's what they were all about. Kamala's parents met at UC Berkeley while pursuing their degrees. So they met at university, but their passion lied with ensuring equality for all. So they were really committed to this equal rights, civil rights. Education. As a child, Kamala was bused to Thousand Oaks Elementary School daily from her low middle class neighborhood to a predominantly successful white neighborhood where her school resided. So she took a bus out of her own neighbourhood and went to a different school, which was in a mainly white neighbourhood at that time. So we know that around this time, obviously, there was still separation between black people and white people. Kamala attended Howard University, a historically black college in Washington, D.C., where she majored in political science and economics. So majored there is an American way of saying what you specialize in, what you study at university. So the subjects that she studied were political science. So politics is obviously things like around your politicians and your laws and your presidents and things, and science and economics. After graduating from Howard University, Kamala went on to attend the University of California, Hastings College of the Law in San Francisco. In 1990, Kamala passed the California bar exam. So the bar exam is something that you have to pass to be a lawyer. So that's what she was going to do as her career. After passing the bar exam, Kamala became the Deputy District Attorney of Alameda County in California. Now, attorney is kind of an American word for lawyer, okay? And we know that a lawyer is someone who kind of goes to court and fights for justice for people. After gaining experience, Kamala served as the District Attorney of San Francisco. The next career step for Kamala was becoming the first woman, first African American, and first Asian American to become California's Attorney General. So she's in California. Again, attorney is the lawyer, and Attorney General is a really big and important role to hold. And this says here that she was the first woman to do it. She was also the first African American and also the first Asian American. Now, obviously, we read at the very top that her mother was Indian and her father was Jamaican. So she's got different cultures and different nationalities within her background. And obviously, she herself was born in America, in California. So she is American as well. As General Attorney, she fought for her people in the state of California, seeking better opportunities for all. One of her most successful accomplishments to date is Open Justice, which is an online platform that allows the public to access criminal justice data. So she's come up with this online platform where people can go in and see the results of court cases, so criminal justice data, so what's happened to people, whether people have been convicted and things for certain crimes. In 2016, Kamala was elected to the Senate. She was the second African American woman and the first South Asian American person to be an elected senator. So we can see throughout her career, she's taken these prominent roles and been the first, either the first woman or the first African American, first Asian American person to be in these roles. And that carries right on to present day. So Joe Biden chose Kamala Harris as his vice presidential running mate for the 2020 presidential election, and she is now the first female and non-white person to hold the position of vice president. So that brings us right up to modern day. This has literally just happened. Obviously, it's 2020 presidential election, and we know that the results came in 2020, but actually they had what they call the inauguration ceremony last week, where it actually becomes official. So now Joe Biden is the president and she is the vice president. Okay, so like the deputy president, the second in line. And actually, when Joe Biden was going for the presidency, originally Kamala Harris went to campaign to be a president nominee, but Joe Biden kind of won that. So Joe Biden went for president and he chose her to go alongside her. So it's really significant, really special moment for women and for African American and Asian Americans. So hopefully you've got some notes from that and hopefully you've understood everything that you've read. Thank you for joining the lesson and look out for the questions relating to this text in tomorrow's session.